I think that's one thing which is important in the taste is that the people recognize sweetness and bitterness. Sweetness and saltiness very well, but quite often, and you probably have also more research on that, but people are not so knowledgeable about the differences between sourness and bitterness. So I think that's one thing when you are researching taste, you have to be sure that people know which is sourness and which is bitterness. And my actually rule in that is a little bit more tactile because the sourness gives you more moisture in the mouth, and bitterness, as we discussed, is more mouth drying. Mari always is smiling to me, so she probably comment that also. I think the taste is one thing in tastes which is also important is that if the taste is very, very high, or perhaps it relates to all other senses also, especially taste, if you have a very intense taste, it's very difficult to taste anything else, so it's very dominant. And in the food, we talk about the taste quite a lot, but keeping in mind that there is also only that sweetness and sourness and saltiness, the bitterness. I think the role of taste is perhaps not so big in tasting as we think, but probably you guys can comment that. But on the other hand, I think that in a way the role of the taste is not perhaps very important in tasting. It has a major role in wine and food combination, because then we go to the idea that we how we say it. Let's say so that we have a saltiness and acidity which in the food will decrease, or will make the wine softer and easier to drink, and on the other hand we have sweetness and umami who increase the acidity and bitterness in the wine, so makes the wine stronger and more bitter and more sour. So I think that's one thing which in combination of food and wine is very important.
This is an example, I don't know what's the purpose of this, but this is an example of the foods. I think this is food, non-alcoholic, I understood. That we have, or they have, Anu and the team, they have inactivated all the other senses except the sense of taste. So you can't smell it, you can't see any differences. It looks like water for you, and you can't hear anything. It doesn't have any bubbles or anything, and then it's very hard actually to observe the mouthfeel of it. So this is an example that I hope that all of you are able to taste at least something here, but this is not only one taste. I hope I'm right.
You're right, yes.
But in terms of how many tastes do we have, and how should we carve them up, I guess there's a big debate. Mm-hmm. Everyone would sort of say bitter, sweet, salty, sour, and now we know there's umami, meaty, proteinaceous goodness.
Fatty taste?
But then there's fatty taste, a metallic taste of blood.
An astringent. Maybe also taste, partly at least, one part of it.
Yeah, and so some of the people working in the food labs would say there are up to 27 different tastes, basic tastes, some say. So we don't know quite how many there are yet. A lot more work on matching music to another 20 to go, theoretically.
More work.
Yeah, but the nicest example about how little taste matters to taste is from Brillat Samaran, in his Physiology of Taste, talks about some of the prisoners of war, Algerian prisoners of war, who the French would cut their tongues out as punishment for something. Did it change the flavour of food? No. Or, what's he called? Pfefferman, or one of the taste psychophysicists who had herpes and systematically lost all his taste buds, and he kind of monitored himself as it happened, and he was kind of surprised food was just as good as it always was, even though he had no taste sensitivity left in his mouth. It was all coming from the other senses. maybe there are interesting tastes. There are things like menthol, which came up as a smell in Bruno's talk, but it's also thermal, it's a temperature.
Cooling,
maybe it's
chemical cooling.
A taste of maybe that's like
Sense.
a 3 sense. Is that a taste, a smell? Or for me, TCA, this cork taint. I don't get it, so I'm not really the best person. But some people will just smell the cork. Others get it when they taste the wine. And quite what's going on there, is that something people can't seem to quite agree, something so important in wine? Is it purely in the nose, or is it a combination of things? And I've heard, I guess, Malcolm Gladwell would say the uber food is ketchup, and it is so because it stimulates all 5 tastes. And any best-selling
ketchup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not sure about the bitterness, but I guess maybe it is in there. And what's happening in ways it may be a search for new sensations in the mouth. So the things like if you go to cocktail bars in London, they'll give you some cocktail bars will give you a Sichuan flower, electric flower, daisy they're called some places.
Giving
and that gives electric kind of
it's,
tingle.
it's like licking the battery.
9-volt battery. And is that a taste or is that a touch? Or what is that sensation? It has a frequency, 50 hertz is what people will match it to. And how can you use that in food? Maybe in the way that the winemaker might, I've heard it said, that the bitterness in the wine, that kind of stays in the mouth for longer, and having that kind of long-lasting astringency or bitterness helps to prolong the flavours, lock them in there in a way. And so people think, if that's true, can you use other sensates in the mouth that might help to prolong your experience, make it a richer, fuller flavour, but by doing something on your tongue.
I think it's like that. Taste is important, but not so important these days. You have to taste it is sweet or salt, and saltiness or sweetness should be in right level. Then you have to taste what it is. Is there some apple or is there some vinegar or something? But
so you add on top of taste the more detailed information or knowledge about what you are eating based
on what you see or what you smell.
Yeah.
Yes. Then comes the taste, and maybe taste is main flavor and then sweetness or saltness. I think it's like this.
In Finland, we do have a very strict legislation that what is the correct level of saltiness in food. So when you said that you need to first decide the level of salt, you talk about your own opinion or somebody else's opinion? What is the correct level of saltiness in your food?
I have to trust my mouth, then saltiness is right. But I know what it should be, and also I calculate it.
But
1% salt is not enough, I think.
Well, there is a challenge, and that's why I think that taste is very complex property of food, and it's also a lot of full of challenges, because once again we are different, how sensitive we are to different taste modalities, and then usually food is not only one taste. Usually there are at least 3 different kind of taste things, and there are a lot of going now to the chemistry, there are a lot of things which you can actually taste as bitter, and there's a lot of interactions between these compounds, and there are different kind of activities, like some of them are inhibiting, some of them are increasing the level that how, for example, how sour the thing is, but then all these modalities, they are interacting, and I think that's the challenge, that we should understand it better, that because we are different as human beings, and the whole taste profile, for example, that kind of person who is sensitive to bitter taste, the whole taste profile is totally different for that kind of person than to to person, the customer, person who is eating the food that is not that sensitive. So maybe then the other things are more dominating in the taste profile.